Hi, thank you for joining us for this episode of Springdale Today. I'm your host, Mary Jordan. Joining us today are Crystal Bridges Senior Director of Learning, Michelle Flournoy, Sonora Middle School teachers, Jodi Morrison, Micozzi and Brittni Gunn. We're recording today from Sonora Middle School, which is one of 21 Arkansas middle schools participating in Crystal Bridges School Partnership Pilot Program. The 2-year initiative has a special focus on visual arts and offers teachers and school administrators a comprehensive action plan, customized workshops and courses, student field trips to the museum, and museum educators in the classroom, which is super exciting. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Now, Michelle, I'm wondering, why did you guys choose middle schools to do the pilot program with?
Yeah, well, we did a ton of research and actually have been working in school partnerships early on before the pandemic, and really saw that there was a gap. There was a gap in the middle school age in access to resources, access to art. We see strong engagement in elementary, strong engagement in high school, but then there tends to be a dip. So we really wanted to position this partnership to kind of close that gap. We also know within the middle school, it's a critical time for the development of young people. No one knows that better than these amazing teachers here, and that the arts have a really strong ability to really activate, excite, and motivate students in their learning journey. So that's kind of the big picture of why we've really drilled into middle school.
Oh, and then why? Why is this such a critical time for students, teachers?
I think middle school is such a formative time. At this point, kids really develop their interests and what they like and what they're going to continue to do and work on. And so if you miss them at this point, I don't know that you ever would catch them.
They're very checked out in middle school. I think so I read somewhere that, you're further away from the, excitement of elementary, and the real world is still kind of too far away for you to grasp. And so you tend to get, like I said, just they check out a little bit in middle school, and I've really noticed that this helps with their engagement and with excitement and interest.
And what kind of research went into developing the program and kind of deciding how the initiative was going to be built?
Mm-hmm. Well, we actually paused the program in 2020, and we said, let's take a moment, really pause, take the time to reimagine what the biggest impact the museum can have in education. We convened leaders from across the country at all levels, higher education, arts organizations, at the state level, to really come together and identify what the need is, and that's really what has led to this pilot.
Well, what are some of the key philosophies that are going behind it? There's an action plan, and you're very strategic in what you're doing. Yeah. What are some of the pillars behind that?
Yeah, there's really 3 big ideas. And the first is learning through American art and really connecting the students' lives through our stories of America that you see when you walk into the galleries of the museum, and really looking at stories of creativity and resilience. The next one is arts integration, so really connecting works of our collection to different subject areas. So students can learn about math through works of art. They can learn about writing, reading comprehension, literacy. We know that's huge. That it's all kind of catalyzed by the works in our collection. And then finally, community connection. The students in schools are engaged in really exciting, ambitious public art projects focused on telling the stories of America within their own communities, and then they do art making as well in the classroom. So those are like the 3 core areas that we're focused on through the partnership.
And Brittni, Maria, you guys, what Jodi, teachers, you teach art, English?
Social studies.
Social studies. Mm-hmm. So how does the program complement the curriculum that the Arkansas Department of Education provides for you as well?
Sorry. Go ahead, Jodi.
Well, from an art standard, we have a responding to art standard that asks students to perceive and analyze artwork. So the strategies used in the classroom are really focusing on those students analyzing that artwork and responding to that artwork.
What about you guys?
I teach U.S. history and ancient civilizations. Pretty much everything in the museum I can tie to my curriculum in some way. So I am very, very lucky. I don't have to look very far.
I have a very similar experience with not really having to try very hard with English. The kids are reading anyway, and just like you read a text, you can read a piece of art. there's things there to find and support, and so it's very similar.
Can you think of anything in particular that stands out as an integration area for you that's kind of worked really well for your students?
I can, if you guys.
Go ahead.
Okay. Narrative writing has been a huge one. With the Atlas state test, we know that the narrative prompts a lot of times do have images with them. And so one of the ways I like to prompt my students to write stories is to show them images from Crystal Bridges and let them have their imagination go wild and tell the story of what that picture is to them.
Mm-hmm. We were looking at a painting the other day in my 7th grade class. We're learning about early settlements, like the first English settlements in America. And one thing that I just pointed out to them was, because they'd asked about one particular part of the painting, and I said, well, you know, one thing I've learned through my training with Crystal Bridges is that nothing on this painting, nothing on here is by accident, that every little piece of this is on purpose. When that's all I had to say, and then it just drove the conversation into a different direction of them just looking at that one particular point and going, why would they have put that there? What is the reasoning behind this? There's a reason. And so it's just really deepening and pushing their thinking, which is not always easy to do with middle school. It's a great tool.
I love hearing these stories too, because it is the part of the pedagogy of the museum really starts from looking at the work of art. And I say that to just really emphasize the importance. So it always begins with a minute or 30-second silent look at all the art. And then we open it with a big question of what's going on in this picture, which is, we hear from teachers all the time, really an easy entry point for students. There's no really wrong answers, but then the teacher can then facilitate the evidence, and what are you seeing that's making you say that, and you're guiding that connection to the content for the students. So I think that's really great examples of that.
What are some really impactful aspects of the workshops and courses that you guys are working on, and has any of that influenced the way you teach in the classroom?
I wouldn't even say so much, I mean, it does influence the way we teach. I just have said, I can now walk through an art museum and kind of feel like I know what I'm doing now. I mean, I've walked with friends through Crystal, and I'm like, let me show you this piece of art, you guys. And I don't know, it's even just helped me feel more confident with looking at art, and now using it in the classroom, realizing how important it really is.
For me, I feel like it sparked a lot of creativity within my teaching and given me a lot of ideas. I'm a newer teacher, and so sometimes I just need that little push or to see somebody do something, and I'm like, oh, that could work great in my classroom. Let me change it a little bit and add it to what I'm already doing.
So just for me, like something impactful I've seen is the level of engagement with students. I really see engagement from students who struggle with their reading and writing skills, because we're just asking them to describe what they're seeing, and they're able to verbally say it, whereas like writing and stuff they struggle with. And so I just see that level of engagement that with the students who would normally check out, who are super engaged in like these visual thinking strategies that we're using with them that I wouldn't normally see otherwise.
And I think sometimes that's too, just that you're their teacher and they see you every single day. So on the flip side of that, though, you have museum educators that are coming into the classroom for you. What's that been like? And are there any resources that you've been able to get access to that maybe you wouldn't have been able to otherwise?
So it's really nice that they come in and they model the strategies for us so we can visually see how to implement those strategies in our classroom. And so we have that for us, and then they always leave us with resources. This summer they offered a program called Reading Beyond Words, which was another like strategy for our toolbox for the arts integration, which was really great to have.
And I'll add from like the student's perspective, when the educators leave the classroom and it's just us again, like they appreciate that somebody has come so much. They get so excited about it. They feel seen, and they enjoy the opportunity to like work with somebody from the community.
It's exciting when you have someone new come in. It really is. It is. I mean, as much as our students love us, they see us every day.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we are chatting today with Crystal Bridges, Senior Director of Learning, Michelle Flournoy, Sonora Middle School teachers Jodi Morrison, Micozzi and Brittni Gunn about their participation in Crystal Bridges' pilot school partnership program. What specific changes have you guys seen in the students as far as their growth in a program such as this? Have you seen changes in the classroom?
Absolutely. I would just kind of piggyback on what Jodi was mentioning earlier with the engagement, but when the first time I did a visual thinking strategy with students last year, there was a boy who was probably not the highest reader or writer. You probably had not seen a lot of wins in school, and had not, I don't know that he had ever taken the chance to speak or answer a question in class all year. And anytime we would do VTS, his hand was the first one up. It was like it took away any of the fear because there's no right or wrong answer. And it's such an easy intro into it that he was so confident that whatever he said was going to be correct. And I just feel like it was a turning point for him just in school to have felt any kind of voice, success, anything. It was the first engagement I'd seen with him. And every time the rest of the year, that was where he would shine, was whenever we would pull the art out.
I've had similar experiences with students coming forward. It really does build their belief in themselves, their self-efficacy.
What about critical thinking and their cultural awareness? Do you guys see any differences there for your students?
I think that is a bit harder to measure compared to engagement for us. But I would say yes, and that it does make them more aware. For a lot of our kids, they haven't left Springdale. And so being able to see the world outside of their world does make them more informed and more prepared for their future.
It's funny you said that. I asked one of my 7th graders today, I said, if somebody asked you, like, what benefits do you see in our art integration program, and this is not a typical 7th grade answer, but he said it pushes our critical and creative thinking, and he said it also makes us think outside the box. And it was really lovely to hear that come from from a student's voice,
Yeah. Well, and what about when you guys have these opportunities for field trips? And does that kind of create a sustained learning outside the classroom experience for the students as well?
Last year, Into the West was here, and we kicked off our westward expansion, unit by going there. And the whole rest of the semester, we could refer back, and the kids were referring back to items that we had seen, or paintings, or artifacts that had been featured in the exhibit. And so it's really, they've curated some really amazing temporary exhibits that come through that just they're going to pique someone's interest,
And even so, there's a significant portion of the museum that's free.
Yes.
To access.
Yes.
So even if you're not accessing whatever's rotating through at that time, there's so much free art to experience there, indoor and outdoor.
And plus, there's expansion coming.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
Yes. Fully dedicated learning and engagement hub with studios for art making. So there are students, when they come, they can see and talk about art, but then they can go and make art, which is just kind of leaning onto that vision of access that Alice Walton, our founder, had. It's really exciting.
We'll have to come down and have a conversation in that space.
Yes,
Let's do that.
yes. Next summer.
All right, good excuse, right? All right. So what about the upcoming public art project? I believe the theme is, how can we bring American stories to life in our community? How are you guys guiding your students through that experience?
Well, we are well on our way. I think we're about halfway through this process. We started last year with a select group of 6th graders, and we took them to Crystal Bridges, and they did like a public art themed tour at Crystal Bridges. And then we took them to the Shiloh Museum of Ozark History, and they learned a little bit more history about our local area in Springdale. And then at the beginning of this year, I decided to go ahead and do the whole creating the designs for our project in the 7th grade art room. So the Shiloh Museum came back and did another presentation with all of my students, as well as the Hunt Nature Center, and did a little bit about our local natural history. And so our plan is we're going to create an outdoor community space. It's called the Gathering Grounds. And it'll be 15 tabletops and benches that will be tile mosaiced. And we just picked our 15 designs, our final designs, and that was a whole process. There was 84 entries, and then the students narrowed it down by half. And then at our parent-teacher conferences last week, I believe it was, we asked parents and community members who came in for conference to vote and to help us narrow it down to the top 25. And then from there, our steering committee picked the final 15 designs. Right now, we are working on making those designs into our prototypes. So they are the life-size 4x4 foot prototypes. And super exciting, we've involved the Springdale Public Library. So during the month of November, our prototypes will be displayed at the library, and we're having a special community art event on Tuesday, November 4th from 5 to 7.
We'll be there.
And yeah, the Crystal Bridges Mobile Art Lab will be there. The Shiloh Museum.
The school or the library?
The Springdale Public Library. So the reception will be that evening there. The students will be there to talk about their artwork. We've invited lots of community members and parents, and so we're hoping for a really good turnout and a fun night to celebrate this public art project that they're doing. And so hopefully in May, we already have a company making the base for the tables, and hopefully in May we can unveil the final outdoor gathering grounds that we have been working on for a year and a half, pretty much.
Where will they be?
So we have a slab already existing here at school. It's over kind of where the buses come in, and it's outside the art in the East Room. And so we're going to permanently install it on that slab, which has sat empty for 14 years. So we're going to make that slab meaningful and interactive finally, and have something cool there for the kids. They're leaving a legacy here at that school, and they've taken so much ownership over this project. It is, even though the 15 designs, it was 15 students that the designs got chosen, all 90 of my students are working together to put these prototypes together, and they've really taken ownership of it, and I'm just so proud of them.
So Michelle, help me understand, there's not one giant public art endeavor. Each school is doing a public art initiative?
Yes, that's
That's
exactly
like
right.
21 times the impact.
Yes.
That's so fantastic.
Yes. Yeah, and each of them will be rooted within their communities and their schools, and they're all taking on different forms and different, different ways of implementing that is just showing the expansiveness of all the possibilities. But a huge shout out to you and the entire school, because Sonora is really, really leading the way in the public art project. So I'm excited to share that across all of our partners, and even as we look to scale even outside of Arkansas, it's really serving as that national model.
And the community storytelling was the basis of it. So I just want to reiterate that we are telling 15 different stories about our community within this project. So.
And I loved hearing you talk about the other community organizations that you've also partnered with, the library, the Shiloh Museum. That's core to this model. We want schools to kind of be that center for arts and culture within their own communities. So that's excellent.
Well, and you talked about scaling it. So the official launch is 2026, is that accurate?
The next school year, yes. Yes.
And then, so what will it look like? What data points and information are you considering to figure out what that's going to look like in the next phase?
Yeah, well, we are continuously iterating and taking feedback from teachers all the time, and we're very flexible and adaptable. We are doing an evaluation with the University of Arkansas, and we just got some preliminary results, and we are showing that the data is backing up exactly what you're saying. School engagement, first and foremost. That's huge in the middle school, because that you heard it here, it decreases, and the fact that we are showing a correlation to increase in that alone is huge. Empathy is another one. Tolerance, so understanding others' viewpoints and caring for others. Those are really some areas that we're looking at evaluating over the next 2 years. 1 year, we're in year 2 now, and from there building from that.
And there's about 8,000 kids involved with the program this year?
10,000 now. Year 1, we started with 16 schools. We added 5 more schools. There's a lot of interest and momentum right now within the state, and so now we're at about 10,000.
So how do you measure success with something of that scale? Because every school's different. Every school community is different. So how do you measure success?
I mean, I think it's all the ways in which you're hearing today. The teachers feeling empowered and utilizing American art into their classroom to help the students learn. The students feeling more engaged and excited. Ownership of the work and really leading the work and feeling like they've made an impact within their communities, all centering around the power of art, specifically American art, and being able to see themselves in that work and imagine what is future and participate and be active and engaged.
In the long-term vision for the program then, what do you hope your relationships for Crystal Bridges are with area school districts?
I mean, the dream is that every student within the state of Arkansas and beyond eventually will engage in this initiative. This is deep work, deep work. And so we're working on building partnerships to expand that across Arkansas, and then working on digital initiatives to scale it even beyond and reach many more for those that can't come here in person. But that's the dream. The dream is continued access for all.
And I suppose, too, with all the digital resources that Crystal Bridges has, that extends that digital resource. I know a lot of that was developed during the pandemic to make art more accessible, but I'm sure for homeschool families and families that aren't in the district, that's probably a great resource and tool for them as well.
Yes.
Well, we've talked about so much, and it's all wonderful. It's art and kids and growth. Is there anything that I just didn't think to mention that you guys really feel is a valuable part of the conversation today?
I think with like our district in particular, in our school, we have a lot of language learners here, and the strategies that we're using in the classroom are allowing them to acquire new language. And I hear that over and over again from the teachers in our steering committee that are working with the students here, is that students they might not know the vocabulary they want to say and that they're seeing, but they're somehow getting it by the end of the VTS, and they're just getting that language acquisition through this program also.
I guess if they're excited about learning more about it, they'll find the words one way or another and learn through that process.
Or another student will know the word, and then they'll learn that word during this process.
I had one that was just repeating. You know, he just came to my classroom a week or two ago and hardly speaks any English, but he was repeating, and he was so excited because he was like, I see a boat. And he had heard someone else, but he's practicing he just heard it and he could see it. And, I just yesterday I was going, oh my gosh, look at him.
And you guys not be excited.
I am so excited. In my classroom, it's super impactful for language learners because I teach English. So when you put an entire passage in front of them, that's so intimidating for them. But the art gives them a way to show their knowledge and communicate that they do know it. They just don't have the vocabulary to share that with us yet all the time.
I'd also like to point out what we learn from them. Every discussion, especially the one that I used, we just started, I said early English settlements. And so the activity I did was the 3 W's. Why does this topic matter to you? Why does it matter to the people around you? Why would it matter to the world? And every class you have a different discussion, and it might go in a different way, but what they're learning from each other and what I'm learning and the viewpoints and the perspectives that you hear, it's different in every class, and you just come out, I just feel more fulfilled myself after a day like that, and after a day when they are engaged in having those conversations as well. And just to see what they can think of on their own.
They can get deep.
You know, they can get way deeper than you think, you know.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing with that. Thank you for being with our students. Thank you for opening the doors of Crystal Bridges to our educators and families. It's important. It makes a difference. Everything you're doing counts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can catch this and previous episodes of Springdale Today on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, your favorite podcast app. Thank you for joining us for this conversation, and I look forward to talking to you next time about everything happening in Springdale Today.
Springdale Today is a production of Springdale Public Schools Communication Office.
The podcast is hosted by Mary Jordan and is produced and edited by Micah DeLacy.
Be sure to subscribe to Springdale Today for free on your favorite podcast platform.
And don't forget to follow Springdale Today on social media for episode updates and behind-the-scenes conversations.
Thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us in the future
As we continue to learn about the amazing stories happening in Springdale today.